I'm Natalia Marakfer, and I am with Restore Childhood, and we advocate for children of all ages for restoration of complete normalcy. And today I'm here with Sumayya Ahmad, who is the parent of two toddlers, because today the New York City Mayor announced that the long-awaited lifting of the toddler mask mandate will be this coming Monday, June 13th. That's 3 months and 6 days after it was lifted for every other age group. So kids 2 to 4 and then 5-year-olds who are still in pre-K and their teachers have had to mask since the beginning of the year and past the March 7th unmasking date for every other age category. So I'm going to turn it over to Sumayya, and I'd love to hear what your well, first of all, introduce yourself, and then also what your reaction is today.
Hi, I'm Sumayya. I'm a parent of two kids, a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old, one of who is in school about 5 hours a day, and I'm really relieved to hear that he finally is letting them have mask choice, so to speak. I also think it's kind of absurd that we're at a place that this is happening, like you said, 3 months and 6 days after the announcement, where all other children in the country, essentially, except for minor small pockets, were allowed to unmask or allow mask choice. I think it's really sad that we've had to advocate so strongly for this, and also advocating with almost no response from our elected officials. I think it sort of aroused a kind of advocacy and activism that we haven't felt, and I haven't certainly felt for a long time since my college days. And so I think a lot of parents are feeling this way, and we feel like the battle is not over. We're relieved, but we're also kind of shocked that it happened, and also very wary that it could happen again, and new policies might be implemented that are also, unethical and not based in any scientific, reasoning.
Have you told your children that the mask mandate will be over effective Monday?
I will as soon as he wakes up from his nap. So he's kind of tired today, but he's going to be relieved. I don't think he particularly enjoys the mask. I think most of all, I don't even know if he knows what he's missing. And that's what's crazy, is like he hasn't seen his teacher's smile, or his kids, his friends in school like interact indoors in like a normal situation. I mean, they go outside, and not infrequently, but to have circle time and read a story and hear the teacher act out what's happening in the story and see their lips when they're communicating. These are all small things that have been deprived of him for the past 9 months, if not more. And so I think I don't even think he knows what he's missing. So I'm so happy that he's going to be able to experience it fully, especially because he's actually learning a second language in school. He's learning Spanish. And sometimes he'll come home and ask me certain words, like, what does that mean? And how do you say that? And I think it's because part of it is probably because he can't hear as well with the mask and doesn't know what the actual words would be when it's challenging,
Yeah, I mean, I hope that the teachers consider unmasking as well, because I think it's great that kids are unmasked, and now teachers will have the liberty to do so. But I know personally from our elementary school experience, I have a 2nd grader and a 6th grader in middle school. Many of the teachers are still masked, and my 2nd grader still has a fully masked teacher in her classroom who is wonderful, but hasn't taken her mask off. So she's showing the kids videos of enunciation, but not actually pulling her own mask down to show them how to do it. And I can't really quantify the harms of that, but I think they are significant, and they won't be traceable back, obviously, to this. But I think that, just in terms of like showing our children how much we care about them, and also the closeness. I mean, there's still that wall between them and their beloved teacher. I think my 2nd grader said to me the other day, we really haven't seen our teacher's face all year. And I think that's really sad and lonely.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is kind of like part of the struggle and part of the battle, but now we still have far more to go.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, like, what have you done? What's been your advocacy journey in trying to get the masks off? What things have you tried?
Yeah, I mean, I think my COVID journey began a long time ago. Like, fall of 2020, where I was living in New York City, especially in the upper Manhattan, where about 40% of businesses had shut down. And I have a lot of patients who work in tourism, and they're taxi drivers and they're people who have carts and sell kebabs and stuff. And they work in hotels, and they were really struggling. And so I was just amazed, I was shocked that that society had basically just turned around and didn't care what their fate was. But it didn't affect me as directly, although I wish I had spoken out. I also felt like the school closures were one of the worst policy decisions I've ever witnessed in history. And I hope I never see anything to that degree ever again. And it was I think what was even worse is that nobody felt like, I found my Twitter people, I found you and all the other people. And I was like, how are people not more angry about this? And how are we not up in arms? And I think you actually had a post where you were suing the state of New York or city of New York. And I was like, yeah, you can finally take some money and do something with all my anger. And I was like, I didn't know how to actually channel all my anger. I was a little afraid with the culture to speak out. And now after this happened, and I realized that there was no scientific there hadn't been for the whole time, but now it was a little bit easier to speak out once the masking had been lifted in the early part of this year. And so basically I decided that I was not embarrassed or scared anymore. And I was going to use every opportunity that was allowed of me to speak up about this, because I want my children to know, and I want everybody to know how I feel about this, because I think it's affecting so many people who are voiceless. Like my patients have been voiceless the entire time. These small children are voiceless. They don't have people to speak up for them. And if I have the ability to say something, of course I will. And so I started writing op-eds with Megan, which was a really great journey. It was a good learning opportunity, but also allowed me to connect with other people, and fundraising, obviously, for your organization, and calling people and realizing how complex this whole system is. It's not just about changing one policy, it's changing a whole institution. It's changing the way people perceive risk and people understand science, real science. And it's very complex. It's the media is at fault, and our government is at fault, and we're at fault in a lot of ways, and so I'm willing to do interviews like this now, whereas a year ago I wouldn't have been. But I'm happy that I'm here, because I think this is the right thing, and this is the most important. I want our children to live in a society that's truly equitable for everybody, and I want people to have the same opportunities. And I think if we don't say something now, especially now, or even before, it's never going to be the society that I want to raise my children in,
So if I was asked this question earlier today, and I'd like to ask it of you as well, if you could speak directly to the mayor right now, what would you say?
I think he means well. I think deep inside, I believe that he didn't want this. I would say he should use his power to use common sense, which I do think he has, and continue advocating for policies that make sense, like not necessarily slapping on masks every time it's high, which is what he did in this past surge with this K through 12, and not closing schools like he did in December. So I think the mayor has common sense. I think he's a new mayor, and maybe he's afraid.
He didn't close schools in December.
He didn't, exactly.
No, yeah, exactly. He was great. He stood up for the right.
Great. So this is why I think he has common sense.
Right.
And I think he's the guy who's able to use that. And so I would just say, you have a good internal barometer, and use that to stand up to people who don't make a lot of sense. Like the commissioner in this particular instance was wrong, and I think it. And so if this happens again, where he's trying to advocate for policies that are nonsensical and will make you look like a fool, stand up to him or other health officials or whoever is telling you that. So I still, despite all of this, I feel like I have hopes for him, even though I'm extremely disappointed that it took 3 months, but he's the lesser of all the evils that we had up against us, So I'm hopeful that he won't close schools, that he's not gonna put masks back on in kids. And I think also, if he can lift the vaccine mandates for a vaccine that doesn't reduce transmission for all these people who lost their jobs, and certainly not tie it to after school activities, all of these things are so important. So I hope that he just thinks about it a little bit and just says no, and just let us move on to real normalcy, which is what we all deserve.